Welcome back to Lorewatch, everyone. It's me, Nea, your Junkrat apologist.
And it is me, Geese Goose, your number 2 Venture fan. And this episode is our Junkrat special, woo!
Woo!
Featuring our very wonderful guest today, Mar, otherwise known as _JQOS on Twitter. Or, to put it simply, the CEO of Junker Queen.
Hello.
Welcome in, Mar. Welcome in.
Hi, thank you.
Unfortunately, Reyes Thighs wasn't feeling well, so it's just the 3 of us here.
No. Oh, yes, Reyes Thighs is unfortunately out today. Oh, they were not feeling good. So send yourself some healing your way towards Reyes Thighs. All you support mains, stop your glocking and go heal.
And you soldier mains too.
Or Reyes yourself, go over there. You'll make them better.
Rat Junk's back! Junkrat's back!
You know him, we love him, you should love him. Today, it's all about Junkrat. This episode is releasing on his birthday, February 29th.
Leap year!
It's so fitting that his birthday is on Leap Day. Just makes perfect sense.
I'm glad they also announced it right before a leap year started. It would be very sad if they announced it and everyone had to wait 3 years before we could celebrate his first birthday as official Overwatch birthdays. They knew what they were doing.
Great timing, great timing. But yeah, all about Junkrat. You may know him as just that silly guy who used to have a pretty powerful combo. Not as powerful in the current patch, but still pretty fun to play if you play him.
Juliet Foxtrot here. We are Oyster Manticore Whimsivore Extract.
If you didn't know, Junkrat's actual birth name is Jamison Fawkes. He is, of course, an Aussie. According to the Blizzard website, he is currently 27 years of age and a bomb-loving madman.
I accept all major currencies.
Growing up in the irradiated wasteland surrounding Junkertown, Junkrat is an unhinged, explosive-obsessed oddity. One of the lawless junkers of the Outback, he and his partner/bodyguard, Roadhog, live for crime sprees and mayhem.
When I look at you, I see pure, unadulterated chaos.
Is it the bombs? You don't like the bombs?
Like many others, he was affected by the lingering radiation. This touch of madness made him ideal for handling dangerous explosives, a love he turned into an obsession. He came to notoriety when he discovered an extremely valuable secret in the bones of the Omnium. No idea what that could be. Though few knew of the nature of what he found, he was nonetheless pursued by bounty hunters, gangs, and opportunists wherever he went, until he made a deal with the Junker enforcer Roadhog, who grudgingly agreed to be his personal bodyguard in exchange for a 50-50 share of spoils. After a string of offenses against the Junker Queen, Junkrat and Roadhog were officially exiled from Junkertown. They then turned their sights beyond the Outback to embark upon an international crime spree, leaving nothing but havoc and bedlam in their wake.
My exquisitious queen, I come bearing news of great import.
Not now, rat junk!
My name's Junkrat.
No, it isn't.
Though they racked up a considerable bounty upon their heads, they've been able to evade capture through the very same methods they've used to acquire such a bounty, mainly those involving loads and loads of bombs.
Buckle my shoe! There's mayhem to do!
So, Junkrat finds something, is wanted for that thing, teams up with Roadhog, they become best buds, or so it seems. Perhaps even more. I'm not gonna insinuate anything, but there is that one Lifeweaver voice line between him.
Are you and Roadhog together?
Do you ever see us apart?
No. I mean, are you a couple?
Yes! A couple of dashing rogues! Not sure what you're missing here.
Oh yeah, no. Lifeweaver, he's also very nice to Junkrat as well, being like, yo, hey, we're buddies in crime.
Lifeweaver is very sweet to everyone. I'm glad he's nice to the Junkers.
I know. But yeah. And it's kind of funny because everyone goes on and on about how Junkrat cannot keep his mouth shut.
Now, I know I ain't got many mates among this group, but I hope we can look past our differences and proceed forward, with mutual respect, into a bold and prosperous future, inclusive of a few modest explosions, as the circumstances permit.
Yet, it's been how many years and we still don't know about what he found?
I know. I really wonder, like, if it has anything to do with the door. You guys know the infamous The Last Door.
Yes.
I've heard of the door, yes.
And the short story that's going to come out in Here's Descendant, it's going to be very, very interesting. I think it has to do with that, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. It would be interesting as well if they do use that thing to bring Junkrat and, well, all the Junkers into the story mission modes with that.
A Junker story mission would be the best thing.
It would be a dream to so many people.
First of all, 3 tank meta and 1 DPS.
Yes.
And that's why we gotta have a Junker support sometime.
Yes, I agree.
Junker support or just bring in Anna with it. Because
Yeah.
I feel like that would be so much
yes.
fun. Grandma,
Yeah.
3 tanks, and then Junkrat. Like, everyone would be having the time of their life. It's the story and the mission mode that we need. Because it's just so many characters that you're like, I don't know how they would get along, yet they all get along. Like, it just works.
I think it will be really interesting to see how they all get along in the short story, especially considering that so many times Odessa, the Junker Queen, has like threatened his life, and then like yet we know that they're all going to be together at some point.
Didn't I say I'd rip out your tongue if I saw you again?
My queen, your voice, ever sonorous, is like a gentle waterfall upon my ears.
Yeah, the ears are next.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not her killing them.
Yeah, no. Like, it has to be good enough where she's just like, okay, fine. Like, your life is spared.
I kind of think that if she really wanted them dead, I really don't think she wants Roadhog dead. I don't think she dislikes him that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think if she wanted them dead, they would be. But I don't think she actually wants them dead.
No. She's only all talk, no action when it comes to him. But anyone else, I'm just like, yeah, no, she would do it.
She's all talk for sure. She's,
Yeah.
I think, secretly a softie.
She's a big softie. Aw.
And she also has that voice line when you get to the gate as Roadhog where she's like, why did you come back here? Like, if people see me letting you in, they're going to think that I'm a softie, and I'm not. And it's like, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you come back, Mako? I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna look soft. Which I'm not.
And I think Junkrat, she just, like, doesn't like him. He just really annoys her. And that's definitely because of the Summer Shack.
Oh, OMG, definitely. You do not blow her summer shack up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to learn more about that. Like, I imagine it's just like her vacation home to get away from like being the queen of the Junkers, which I imagine is very stressful. And so like her vacation home is gone now because he blew it up.
And typically I am for, eat the rich, but when it comes to my queen, no, you leave her summer shack. She needs an escape.
She doesn't need an escape. She needs a break. I also think it's really funny when he mentions the education system to her because, of course, she wouldn't know there's an education system there. She wasn't raised in Junkertown. He was raised in New Junk City, but she wasn't raised in either.
I've met mozzies with more brains than you, Fawkes.
With all due respect, m'lady, I believe that's a knock against the Junkertown education system.
We've got an education system?
Yeah, we forget this little rat thing is an educated man.
Grew up in bomb flats and everything.
Do you think he graduated top of his class?
I mean, he is pretty handy. He's made his own prosthetics. They're not pretty by any means, but like, what can you do with scraps? That is a great question.
I do think the Junkers are very, very smart in, like, not a book smart sense, but they're all very
street smart. Yeah.
Yeah. They're all survivalists. They all are keeping themselves alive out there and, creating their own weapons. Junkrat made his prosthetics. They're smart.
Yeah. Until I'm proven otherwise by someone officially that works for Overwatch, Junkrat was top of his class.
I think so, for sure.
I did look into a bit more trivia of him, and apparently there's only like one small thing that confirms that he did blow his own leg off, which I mean is already implied. But oh yeah, it is curious that I noticed how I think one of his fingers was added to the gone pile for him when you compare the his Overwatch 1 skin and his Overwatch 2 skin.
Yeah, I noticed that too, his finger missing.
And it's honestly, like, not bad of a prosthetic finger. I think it's, like, all, like, mostly just a single, like, think of metal. But yeah.
I'll keep trying till I run out of limbs.
Other funny things. Obviously, he is a fan of milk tea and boba. I think way back when it was, like, confirmed by someone that his canteen in his Overwatch 1 skin is filled with boba. But this is a nice detail.
Yeah.
I like to think the writers are just like, okay, what foods do some of these heroes like? Well, Junkrat, it's obviously boba, mantis arms, and apparently his own toenails.
All those things work out.
All part of a healthy diet.
You look like a gentleman who eats his own toenails.
Why the hell would you say that to someone?
Just looking for something we might have in common.
I really liked when we got the cookbook and we could read about like the different things that connect those foods to those characters. And boba tea was, of course, one of Junkrat.
Yep. Is there anything else from the cookbook? Because I don't have a copy of it, but Naya, do you?
Unfortunately, my cookbook is still packed away. I haven't found that box.
Mine might be at my job, but I might have it with me. I know he also has, I think it's him at least, I think it's called the Junkertown Loaded Burger, which was just like a burger with like everything on it.
Ooh.
Which I found it kind of interesting because I'm like, the Junkers live out in the wasteland, and like, people aren't really trading with them. They're like very, very out there. I'm like, they probably don't have all these things that are on this burger to like put on it themselves.
Yeah. No one really wants to trade in the Outback, but I mean, if they have Junkertown double cows, then maybe they just have their own.
They've got the double cows for sure.
Glowing like a Junkertown double cow.
They have their own modified gardens and whatnot to just, if they're survivalists, they could probably be very sustainable.
Yeah. I always like to imagine that they probably have greenhouses somewhere in Junkertown or New Junk City. Because I think as like from an outside perspective, as like criminalish people think they are, they're just a community of people. Like they're just trying to survive.
Yeah. It's like they chose to stay there and they're living their best lives.
Yep.
Gladiators, fighters, survivalists, making cool things.
And I think one thing that is really important to consider when we think about like Junkrat or even the Junker Queen, they're like the children of ALF, which was the Australian Liberation Front, the people that are the cause of the explosion in the Omnium. And like their mindset and their beliefs and their way of life is probably very different to what Junkertown started as, Like it's been over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Junkrat wasn't even alive when the explosion happened. So that's all he knows. I mean, until he left Junkertown and explored the world on his terrorism spree, but before that.
Yeah. It's curious to see like the difference between the Outback and like we know what Sydney looks like in the Overwatch universe, and it is very much metropolitan.
Yeah.
And developed still. So it's like it's not too far from the Junkertown and New Junk City. There's probably a lot of people being like, why don't the people just move on? It's like, it's kind of difficult.
Also, it's sometimes hard to move on from, where you live, what's your home. Like, this is what they know as home. I don't think they really want to.
For sure. I think along the same lines with, like, why don't they, go into Sydney? Why don't they whatever? I think this idea that all Junkers are the people who caused the explosion, the people who hated the Omnics, people who fought them, like that mindset carries on throughout the rest of the world for the current Junkers, when the current Junkers are just victims of circumstance, so they're still seen as criminals and stuff, So like Sydney's not gonna welcome them in. We saw in what was it called? Going Straight? Was it Going Straight? Where
Going Legit.
Going Legit?
Yes.
Man, I don't even remember where they're in Sydney, but that was just like a big trick. Like they knew they could pass off easily pulling off some crimes and saying it was the Junkers, because everybody in the world looks at the Junkers like they're all horrible people.
And
so I think like
just everyone hates them. It's very unfortunate.
And especially for, you know, the current generation, because they had no choice in what their life became.
Yeesh. This went very sad very quickly, but it is true. With all of the interactions of the various Junkers. But it's still nice to see some people are kinder to heart.
Yeah.
When we brought up Life Weaver, it's interesting, and it makes sense to me to see, because obviously the Outback is even worse off, like, in terms of wildlife and nature than it used to be. So, like, when Life Weaver first came out, part of me hoped that he had some sort of, like, comment on the state of Junkertown or New Junk City, just, like, how things are very desolate, you know, the sky is brown and the grass is brown.
Singing little Junkrat song, but, you know, in his own calm voice.
He loves singing. I've noticed that.
I love when he sings for Lucio, and Lucio's just like, yeah, that's great.
I sing. La 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 la. Figaro, 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 Figaro.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Lucio doesn't know how to handle a true fan. All of his other fans fake. As soon as he meets a real fan, he's like, what is this?
Lucio's more instrumental. He doesn't know the true art of vocals and lyricism.
No offense to Lucio. I'm sorry, Lucio. Lucio Mafia, do not come for me. I am more scared of you guys than any other Mafia. But yeah, no. So we have Life Weaver, who's nice to the Junkers. Oddly enough, Moira, nice to the Junkers.
I think she gets them in an odd sense.
You looking for a lab assistant? I'm great with chemicals.
Certainly. We would begin by testing your tolerance for pain.
What's pain have to do with science?
Everything, my strange little friend.
Anna's also sort of nice to the Junkers, but then again, she also lived.
Yeah.
She knows them.
I would love to know more about her time in Junkertown.
Yeah, no, literally. It's just kind of thrown out there. Yeah, she's been there once or twice. Like, huh? We mentioned this in our Anna episode, but just like, what?
Like the fact that Junkrat and Roadhog both seem very fond of her. And even Junker Queen herself is like, oh, you're that person. Like, everybody liked her.
Yeah. So, like, she probably had, like, some amazing impact or something, and Junkrat, being a strong supporter of strong women, was just like, this is a very strong woman, but also, this is mother.
Yeah.
Based off of how he acts around her.
He definitely needs someone wise and experienced.
It's so hard to tell right from wrong. If only I had someone to give me guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Someone wise and experienced. An adoptive mother, if you will.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So, all around, Junkrat is just an embodiment of fandom in a weird way.
Never really saw it like that, but yeah. Just a goofy little guy. Loves to sing, loves explosives. He knows what he likes. And he doesn't... I mean, at first you think he isn't really affected by all the hate, but then there's that line with him and Baptiste.
What's wrong, man?
It's nothing. Just beginning to think nobody likes me.
Maybe if you stop stealing and blowing up everybody's stuff?
Is it even worth it? If I don't get to do what I love?
So true.
Junkrat is pro not changing who you are to fit in with everyone else.
Don't kill the part of you that's cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes. He's always been the comic relief, but as a character, I mean, his lore story isn't as long or detailed yet as the others, but hopefully that changes with the short story.
Yeah, I really am excited to see. Like, he must be pretty important for Odessa to keep him around.
Honestly, if we look at the Heroes Ascendant cover, as everyone's been analyzing for the past half a year now, does the background mimic the Omnium factory or some sort of null sector area? I haven't really looked at it too much until now.
I have stared at it since it was first announced, and I have been wondering the same things. I kind of wonder if it's in the Omnium. I feel like that would make a lot of sense with everything, his treasure, the door. But I don't know, it would be wild for it to be anything to do with null sector. I could definitely see null sector wanting to take out Junkertown, with Junkertown's reputation being how badly they hate Omnix.
Definitely.
Wait! Is it too late for me to join Null Sector?
Do you have any thoughts on his secret treasure? Because
I don't know. I think it could be... I've had so many conspiracies and theories I've spouted off with my friends in the past, but anything that has to do with the door or anything like that, I wonder if it could have to do, and this might sound kind of crazy, but we learned a little bit about god AIs, and we also know that the Omnium, that is the New Junk City Omnium, is the same one that Aurora was made in. So I'm maybe it has something to do with all of that. I don't know what, but it could be something like that. Something that'd be big.
Could be some code or device that could activate another god AI.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing things here.
I mean, I feel like that's all I do is just speculate.
Yeah. Or maybe it's some massive Omnic killing bomb device thing. That's why the Junkers are so passionate about it.
I have also some theories that are kind of baseless, but I think about a lot what it would take for there to be Junker Omnic peace, because I think if there's ever going to be that, it's going to be because of Odessa or because of that generation of Omnics. And I sometimes wonder if whatever is behind the door or whatever sort of thing that will connect them to the main storyline that has to do with Null Sector, that has to do with everything else, will be some big thing that brings them Omnic Junker peace. Even if it's a god AI, I could definitely see it being a god AI that helps them when they're attacked by Null Sector, or shows them the truth of what happened with ALF. Because ALF attacked the Omnics who were not fighting back, who were just living their lives. And I don't know, there's so much I could just yap about theories and whatever.
Yeah, no, it's definitely we're here to yap, but I do think that is fascinating, and that would be cool. The community that is known for hating Omnics, suddenly, whoa, there's a god AI. Oh, Omnics helping humans fight eviler Omnics? Crazy.
I know I could talk about Odessa forever because she's my girl. I love Junker Queen, but I just think her whole thing is she cares about her community so much. I mean, otherwise, why else would she have gone back into Junkertown to take it from Howl and stuff? And I feel if she learned that ALF was not as good as she thought, or her people actually had a chance to live a better life, she'd do it if that meant even if it was human Omnic peace, if it was, or Junker Omnic peace, I feel if it was for the betterment of her people, she'd do it. And we know that Junkers aren't beyond changing their mind about Omnics, because we've seen Junkrat interact with Omnics and be fine about it.
Jamison Fawkes, reporting live. Let's ask this scary metal bloke how he thinks the battle's gonna go.
You are not a journalist.
A puzzling prognostication. Now back to Natasha for a look at the weather.
I mean, he's more of a silly, goofy guy, not as serious as a character openly as Dez is, but I think if one Junker can show change with how they feel toward Omnics, most of them could. Especially Roadhog too, because Roadhog, was part of ALF. He was part of everything big that went down. So I don't know. There's a lot that it could be.
Wait a minute. I'm not with them. I love bots. Help!
I think I wanted to mention, just it's not really attached to anything, but it was brought up how a little bit confusing it might be to see in Junker Queen's cinematic him in the audience, even though that was supposedly taking place 10 years in the past. My theory personally is he ages every 4 years, guys. Of course he's gonna look very similar to his Overwatch 1 skin.
I mean, hey, sometimes 15-year-olds are scrawny and tall, and then they're still scrawny and tall when they're in their 20s. So maybe he just didn't grow that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or he grew just all at once and then just stopped.
Yeah, happened.
Yeah. Guys grow weird.
Something in that refinery juice, that green glowing juice.
Oh, yeah. So true. Well, doesn't Junkertown also have like a restaurant in the map?
Yeah, there's a few little places to eat. The main one, like that you see in both New Junk City and Junkertown, is I don't think it has an official name. My friends and I just call it Koala Takeaway because there's a koala there. It has a takeaway sign, so Koala Takeaway.
That's a good name.
There's also like Buds and Mates in New Junk City, which just are like kind of little kiosk restaurants. And then there's like a couple bars around. Like I think one's called the Leaky Bottle. I could be wrong, but there's a few of them.
And then the new house in Junkertown is crazy.
Yeah, that burnt out house with the Omnic bodies in it.
I noticed like they added like arrow signs and more like Omnic fire pits around the map. I don't know if the fire pits are new, but I did notice like the more signs around the side areas.
Yeah, I was really hoping to get some more like update when they said they were updating Junkertown, like we'd see different things, but it's still pretty cool to see it at night.
Oh yeah, Junkertown at night is so pretty.
It's very pretty.
It's like all the colored lighting just makes it seem like a different thing.
It's just such a cozy little place to be. I'm like, yeah, no, this is my city as I like stroll around as Junkrat. It's like, this is where I get to chill and hang.
I totally agree. The streets look so like cute at night, all lit up. I just think it looks really nice. I don't know when the last time you guys watched the trailer for Junkertown was, when it was announced as a map, but it's wild watching it because it's like, who are these people? Like it's supposed to be the Junker Queen talking, and it just seems very different compared to how it is now and how the characters are now.
Mm-hmm. Even like the animation too, I'm just like, wow, we have come such a long way.
Oh, for sure.
Things always go well when you're working with Junkrat and Roadhog.
As much as he is funny, goofy, silly, you do not want to mess with them. I did reread Going Legit, as you can see in the notes, and it's just brutal the way that they handle the suit at the end of the comic.
It's a pretty brutal death.
I did not expect them to like fully depict that frame, but deserved. Eat the rich.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
It makes me wonder how willing to kill the Junkers are when it comes to outsiders. I know for the most part they keep to themselves, but I guess if you were truly wronged like that, like Junkrat and Roadhog were, it happens.
Yeah. I don't think they kill innocent people.
No, for sure.
They're a Robin Hood type.
Yeah, that is often how I see the Junkers as a whole. Because I feel like they're very protect their own community. And I do think there has been a change in how they wanted to depict Junkers in Junkertown from the time of like Wasted Land coming out to now. Like from them being this criminal wasteland to, actual people with actual lives that are just trying to live.
I did it, Mum! I'm on fire!
No, Venture would, even though they're not out yet, there's something about them where I'm like, no, that Junkrat core in a way.
Might be best friends.
That does make me think if Venture will have any interactions with the Junkers. Like how will they react to the Junkers?
They'd be best friends. I am so excited.
I could see them getting along well with Junkrat. Like they wouldn't be bothered by Junkrat being dirty. Like they've got dirt on them.
Also, like explosions and drilling, like those two go hand in hand. Oh my god! Until I get Venture's age, I will not ship it until I get an age. But I see a potential ship right there. We're just waiting for the age confirmation.
Maybe like a interaction between them, just talking, just yapping to each other. It just doesn't matter. They're both nerds. They know what they like.
They seem very friendly and goofy, and Junkrat's very that, and he loves talking to people. So I could see it.
He'll talk to anyone, even if they don't want to talk to him.
Uh-huh.
Still talk.
Say bacon one more time.
Bacon, one more time.
I really, really, really like Roadhog and Junkrat's dynamic. I think it's so great. Like, annoyed as Roadhog gets with him, you know they're best friends. They're whatever you want them to be, but you know they like each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their shapes, their personalities, the classic comedy duo.
I also had some thoughts I discussed with one of my friends about, like, especially you can see it in Wasted Land. I feel like Roadhog, probably after everything that went down with ALF and everything that happened with the Omnium and just kind of living in this, not necessarily horrible, but very hard, you know, living situations. I'm sure, like, seeing somebody like Junkrat, who was so full of life and still so happy and still, like, not letting the world get him down, even though he was born into that awful situation, like, that was probably very refreshing for Roadhog to have him around.
Mm-hmm. The world deserves both of them. And I believe I do probably have access to other alterations of Junkrat's, like, concept designs when they were first developing him.
Oh, yeah.
But here's one from the wiki. Honestly, glad he got much more dirt on his face, but then he also cleaned up in Overwatch too, which I'm proud of him.
He looks very nice in Overwatch too, I think. Like, man, he grew up.
He's healthier, covering up more of his bald spots.
Yeah, he's got some hair back.
Like, he's using a little bit of that money to pay for a hotel every once in a while to take a bath, like, once every couple months.
Yeah.
You gotta look nice when you go to the Cake Pop concert, so...
That, what was the skin called for his K-pop skin? Wasn't it like Foxy James?
Yeah, Foxy James.
Yeah, Foxy James, okay.
It's so funny. It was such a good one.
It's the only Junkrat skin I wear.
Knowing that he's a K-pop fan is so good.
It was so funny when that event dropped, because everyone was always speculating out of all the girl characters, be like, oh, who's it gonna be? And then they're like, and Junkrat, and everyone's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, even people who didn't really play Overwatch as much or, like, speculate with the fandom, they were like, yeah, no, Junkrat being into K-pop, it works for him.
I appreciate a lot when they give us something that isn't as expected, you know? Like, when it came to the K-pop thing, they're like, oh, which girly is gonna get it? It's gonna be Mercy, it's gonna be whatever. But I'm glad when they give us something that we didn't think was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think in the order, like, everyone saw the main girl group skins first, and then, like, when they released the events, like, oh yeah, by the way, you can earn this Junkrat skins. Like, oh, there's one more to the pack. Nice.
And
yeah,
then
I kind of hope they do that again.
It would be so fun if they did that again. With whatever, you know, collabs are to come in the future. Surprise us with a unexpected character.
I think Junkrat should always just be like the free skin during a collab where it's just like a random group of things, and then there's Junkrat, and you're just like, yeah, no, that works.
I do like when, like, we get girly themes and we get, like, silly things. I do like seeing them given to the Junkers because they always have, you know, like, Junkrat has a lot of, like, goofy, but then, like, more, not, like, necessarily serious, but, like, you know, like Scarecrow and those ones like that where they're not fun to say, like, they're not all cutesy. I like when our characters get cutesy things, and I think it's just a matter of time until Junker Queen also gets a cutesy one, because then we'll have, like, the Pachimari Roadhog and the K-pop Junkrat, and then something cute for her.
If they ever do a Sailor Moon collaboration, she needs to be one of them. That way we can have, like, we need, like, fan like Comic-Con going Junker theme.
I love it when they just make unserious skins. Like the Duck Baths, Zenyatta, Cupid Hanzo, Heartbreaker Reaper. Heartbreaker Reaper is just... ugh.
I love Heartbreaker Reaper.
Just make skins fun. That's what they should be.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people really like that when, you know, when their favorite characters can have something silly, like, not always serious.
Yeah, like, as nice as it is to follow the theme, it's always the ones that come out of left field, and I'm glad some Junkrat does get a few of those. He should get more.
I think the Junkers, for sure, could definitely use some more silly ones.
Had me brekkie and a billabong. Me night was short, but me day was long. So long.
I feel like overall, like the motif of the Junkers is just making something cool and fun out of an unideal situation, and it's honestly great.
I definitely agree, and I feel like, I don't even know how to word this, but I feel like they're supposed to kind of show, you know, how easy it is to cast aside a group of people, like people living in poverty or people that live in such horrible circumstances, or like have been in situations that make them look like bad people when they're really not, you know, just because how easily they're cast aside by literally everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
I like that because it sort of reminds us when it comes to Overwatch as well, is that there were humans that were affected by what happened, and not everyone went on to join the government and to like fight what's good. But some of them, like, you know, they found their own ways to survive, and like this is what they had to do to survive, or else, you know.
I also think it's really important to remember that the people of Junkertown and New Junk City and the people who were ALF, the people who attacked the Omnium, are described to be basically solar farmers and the indigenous people of Australia, and just like the people that were living out in the Outback that you know already were not living in these grand cities like Sydney. Like, they were people who were already struggling, who were already pushed aside, who were already poor. And I think it makes sense, and I understand where their anger would come from when their land was being given away, you know?
Guys, I like Overwatch, if you couldn't tell.
I love Overwatch.
It's so sad that there's so much good story to this that so many people like overlook, because they're just like, no, it's just a shooting game. No, it's not. There's so much to it.
I feel like whenever people ask me about it, like whenever people find out I like it, they're like, oh, are you good at it? Do you like play competitive whenever? And I'm like, actually, I could talk about the lore forever, but when it comes to actually playing the game, I'm actually kind of bad, and yeah, that's it when it comes to playing the game. One thing that this just came in my mind that I think is really interesting is when we got Declassified, we're supposed to be reading it, you know, from a perspective of somebody who lives in that world and is kind of seeing it as a historical record. Like, we're seeing it written by the people who, in a sense, quote unquote, won, you know? So what we saw about the Junkers is only seeing it from an outside perspective, because I think in that sense, it's also really interesting because you're still seeing them as, oh, these people that did these bad things and now they live like this because they're suffering for what they've done. And I wonder if we'll ever get an outside, or an inside look at that, you know. Declassified was such an outside look at everything.
Like Declassified Volume 2. Because there was just so much where I'm just like, yo, like...
I need Joel Morricone on this.
Oh my god, Joel! No, but like, you know, talking about like, you know, the more sinister, like not really sinister, but like, you know, the darker part. Like, you know, talking about, you know, the Junkers, but bringing to light, it's like, wait, they're not actually that bad, you know, talking about, you know, the Shimada clan and all of that. What else is there? I would say talking about Talon, but like
Well, that's the thing, like with Moira in it, it briefly mentions Moira because it was from an outside perspective. That's as far as we know this is what happened to her. Not like, oh, we actually know that she joined a terrorist organization or whatever.
Yeah, there's so many different point of views, and there's so many characters and like factions in the Overwatch world that you could make like 50 books just showing like each perspective.
That also reminds me, I know there's often like a big debate about it. Do you guys think feral omnics are real, or do you think they're stories that were made up by like the first founders of New Junk City and Junkertown that are still carried to the current Junkers?
I think they're probably not real. I don't think with like, unless they go more into detail about like the effects of the radiation and the destruction of the Omnium, I don't think they'd be affected in that way.
I think it was an Omnic breaking down and like coming near the end and someone saw it. Sort of like, a game of telephone. So like they're explaining the thing that they saw. And then like parents were like, ooh, wait, no, this is good. You don't go out there because there's that one thing. Just like one Omnic creating this monster, even though it's a dying Omnic.
I for sure, I can see. I have always been in favor that they were real, just because I'm like, I can't always talk about Junker Queen. I'm sorry, I'm obsessed with her, but I'm just like thinking like,
fine.
When it comes to the settlements that were out in the Outback that weren't Junkertown or New Junk City, and they had to leave them, why? Like, if it's not bandits, or it could be, but like, I don't know. I've always just like thought that feral Omnics are probably real, but I can see all the different reasons why they also wouldn't be.
If not, the government. The government sent in Omnics to... Yeah, the government wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, they would.
We already know that they're definitely an enemy of the Junkers.
Yeah, just, maybe it turns out those settlements were on top of something and, the government of Australia is like, we gotta get there, just, God, there's so many, like, good colonization things going, like, not good, but, like, things to do with colonization and the Junkers where you're like, yeah, no, they got so many short ends of the stick.
Mm-hmm.
So if the government of Australia was like, nah, like, we gotta kick you off, we gotta move you somewhere else, I would not question it if they, had to use Omnics that were feral.
The feral Omnics are just paid actors.
I do find feral Omnics really interesting to see, whatever we will learn about them.
Yeah. At the very least, like, yeah, it could be a story, or, I mean, the only mentions of them were in, like, the Legend of the Junker Queen song. So...
Yeah.
I mean, with the visuals, again, it could just be, like, decked out a different model of Omnics. Or it could just be her describing them as feral because she does not like them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you see something as your enemy, and they see you as their enemy, then you're probably going to be feral to each other. And if there were any Omnics left out after the explosion, then I think, of course, they're probably going to fight back against the Junkers, so...
Yeah, I totally agree. But I think that's about a wrap here. A lot of good info about Junkrat and the Junkers as a whole. And of course, we'll definitely be having our Junker Queen special one day, which will be very exciting for us all.
I thought you said Monday, and I was like, ooh, that's very soon.
No.
One day, not Monday.
I'm so bad at, like, not talking about her. I'm sorry. I'm just so obsessed with her.
That's okay. We're down for a 4-hour episode. Because lucky for her, she's coming out after new lore drops.
Yeah, I'm going to be even more unbearable. I'm going to be more annoying.
Yay.
I think she's just really a very interesting and complex character who often gets put into just a box of being big and dumb, when in reality she's not. So I can just, like,
She had a lack of privilege.
She did, and I think that is something people don't realize. Like, she just didn't have the opportunities. And neither did Junkrat in a lot of senses. Mm-hmm. But I feel like for Des it was a little worse. She didn't get to be raised in the city. She just got to be raised in the wasteland.
Yeah. As the Junker Queen CEO, we very much appreciate you coming on here for our show.
I'm always glad to talk about Overwatch. It's my favorite thing, and thank you for inviting me. Sorry I went off on little tangents here and there, but...
It's good. It's perfectly fine. And so, yeah. Thank you all for listening to us yap for another episode. Once again, you can check out Mar on Twitter @_JQOS. I've been Goose Goose, and I think I'll always be Goose Goose.
I'm Naya.
And I am Mar.
Thanks for listening.
See you all next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry I'm such a yapper.
You're good. You're perfectly fine. You're amazing.